God, thanks for bringing clarity to whatever it is. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Thank you for all your strength, man, all your peace, all your wisdom, and for all the effort you put into trying to get it across to us. Thank you for all the chances that we get. Uh, I'm still doing the First Corinthians thing, and there's one verse that just keeps standing out, and well, no, it's in 1 Corinthians 9:26, breaking precedence by making these references. Uh, Wait, no, 27. But I discipline my body and bring it into subjection, lest when I preach to others, I myself should become disqualified. Now, well, for the whole picture, you can start in chapter 1. um, but it seems like where this thought really gets kicked off is first verse in chapter 8. And then it seems like it goes through 11:1. So even if you want to just read that part, go nuts. But that verse, man, it's like every time. Well, mostly I've just been listening to First Corinthians when I'm at work, and then reading Ezekiel when I'm at home. And every time I hear that verse about discipline my body and bring it under subjection, just kind of think, well, first how much farther I have to go, and why I haven't put any more effort into it. Like, what's it look like to bring your body into subjection and discipline your body? That doesn't mean making one of those weird whips and then smacking yourself on the back with it when you're chanting. Let's not get weird about that. But well, we look at Paul's life. How often was he comfortable? He talks about he gives his spiritual resume in 1 Corinthians or 2 Corinthians. He talks about how he's in fasting often. Doesn't say how much of that was voluntary, but still says he did it a lot. That's been something God has really been emphasizing with me. It's just time to fast. For a while there, for actually a long time, I was just doing one real good one a year, and I always do it in the first few months, usually, sometimes in the summertime, and I'd get it out of the way, and then I'd be like, all right, man, free and clear for the rest of the year. And so it seemed like God and I kind of had a good deal going, nice little routine. And then some stuff was commencing last fall. God told me that that would be a good time to do a fast. So he's been bothering me about it now. I was like, well, that sucks, God. It's only been like 5-6 months. Where's my time of peace here? Funny how God has a way of exposing where we're really at. So that was well, that's something that's been on the back of my mind for I don't know, like a month. Just trying to figure out a good time to fast. Turns out there's never really that good of a time. But and then these last couple weeks, man, that was I had plenty of opportunities to extend the love of God, and all I did was express how shallow and selfish and proud I am. That's all I did, man. It's like half the time too. I'd be in this, wasn't really an argument, but there was well, we can call them some tense conversations, and then I'd just be sitting there, just trying to, play the situation out in my head. It's like, God, what can I do about this? So he'd tell me, well, you can say this, you can take the blame for this, and you can end it. It's like, well, who wants to do that? So then I just said something else, just kind of fueling the fire, more or less, is what I was doing. And I just kept doing it. Didn't have a good reason. No excuse. I just got to the point where it was starting to become more of a habit, like where I was just not even consulting with God. I would just do it my way. So then I was like, oh, God, you got a point about this fasting thing. What what are we doing here? How do we want to do this? And well, as far as fasting goes, it's your thing, man. Play by your rules. Somebody else goes a week just on water, bully for them. I'd rather have a smoothie every once in a while. I've never, ever done just water on a fast. I imagine that'd be terrible. But there's man, that one I had last fall, I got like stupid angry. And it was with one of the people I'm really close with at work. So things were kind of tense there for a while. And so finally I told him, because I don't want to make a big deal out of it, and most of those people are really cool. They couldn't care less if you were fasting or not. That's one reason I love them. But me and this buddy were making amends for me losing my temper. And I said, dude, I'm sorry. I've just been doing concrete work, and I haven't eaten for 6 days. And it's like, well, that sucks. I mean, why not? I just call it religious stuff. It's like, oh yeah, okay. And I think just like every single one of those people was raised in religion, so they got this very rigid idea of how fasting works. It's just so then evidently me losing my temper. Now this was 5, 6 months ago. I've grown up since then. Evidently not much, judging by the last couple weeks and the conversations I've had, but I've grown up some. And so then that kind of got around to a few of the other people that noticed I was unusually bipolar, irritable, on edge. And then they just kind of, like a game of telephone. Well, you just quit eating. I don't know what, that just makes them angry. And so sometimes that just sparks a conversation. So it's just like out of the blue. I'd just be working alongside somebody and like, so about this, how come that? And I had actually several good conversations, well, about God. So fasting has come up a couple times. And they're like, so what do you do? So, well, I do whatever I want. Oh, you can tell that just they weren't ready for that answer, because they're so used to being told what to do with religion. But that fasting, man, I've been talking to God about it, because there's plenty that I'd just done just because it seemed like it was time. No real narrow intent in mind. Just like, well, this should help me get closer to God. Oh man. So this time I just, God, if I'm gonna fast, I want to figure out what the best way to do it is. I would like to know how long, if there's any kind of minimum that you're expecting from me, and I want to get a head start on this pride thing. So I was just kind of, some people just make a big deal about their time with God, like, oh, I was in prayer, and then they send you on a guilt trip for interrupting. I just kind of, a lot of the time, I just kind of get in a zone doing something, and then God and I just chat like friends. And every once in a while, he'll drop a little something bigger on me, but most of the time, we just chit chat about stuff. And he was telling me that, well, like when I was whining about it only being 6 months since my last fast, I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to start again. I was enjoying all this food. So I was just kind of going over the fasting stuff with him, and he told me that if I want to stay ahead on the pride thing, if I want to keep that in check, it's going to be fasting is going to be a regular thing. It's not going to be once a year. He didn't really set much of a frequency on it, but it would be I don't know if lifestyle. I don't think that's the right word, because you don't make a lifestyle out of 7, 14, 21, 40-day fasts. If you did, it wouldn't last very long. But he was basically implying that if I wanted to stay ahead on this fast, or well, on these fasting, stay ahead on my pride from these fasts, that it's going to be routine. And then I started to complain, and then I remembered everything I've been saying to God about how I want him to be in charge, and about how my life is not my own, I'm just a steward, blah, blah, blah. So the thought slipped out, but it didn't quite make it real far. We're all somewhere trying to get there. And I was talking to God about this pride, man, and he just kept taking me back to these conversations with these people I've been having recently, where at first I had a choice. I could just easily defuse it, man, place of humility, just come from there within myself, be done with it. But I couldn't stoop that low. God just kept bringing me back there. And bringing me back there and bringing me back there. Every single time I'd ask, well, God, how do fasting and pride and humility, where does it all meet? Was it a Venn diagram, I think, with the circles and then the thing in the middle, the overlap? Then he started talking to me. I really like studying Jesus and Paul. Like Jesus, we see plenty of his love with all kinds of different people, like the religious people, chewing them out and being so sacrilegious they're ready to throw rocks at him. And then he goes and hides in the crowd because he's so average looking. But he wasn't afraid to put his life on the line, even for them. They kept coming around to him because he spoke with authority, because he had power, because he just emanated respect. So they kept coming around, and they didn't like what he had to say, and then backslide. So we gotta kill this guy. And then there's the people that came to him with humility, and then he'd stick up for them to these church people that had every right to accuse them, like that chick that was caught like in adultery. Then he took her side over theirs. Jesus wasn't afraid to put other people before himself. And man, I did a good hard study on Jesus, and then a lot more recently, I've just been spending a lot of time in Paul's life. And like that time he was talking, and then they dragged him outside the city and stoned him. And then his little entourage gathered around him and prayed. And then he popped back up, and they went back into the town. That's putting other people first. It's like, hey, yeah, you tried to kill me, but obviously, with that in mind, y'all need Jesus. That's where I want to go. That's where a lot of people want to go, but since I'm the one talking, that's where I want to go. And it's like God would talk about fasting, and then how what it does is just remind your soul that, hey, you keep thinking you're in charge, and I don't know why. That's not pleasant. There's been so many times I'd start a fast, and it's something you got to keep reminding yourself of the first few days, because you're so used to, oh hey, I'm hungry, oh hey, there's a snack. So I was the past few, there's like 2 days in, I was thinking, man, I'm kind of hungry. And I was at work, so I wasn't really I was just kind of in work mode, just used to doing my day-to-day thing. And then I found some snacks. I was like, hey, all right. Then I started eating them, and I said, oh, I failed. God's cool about it, though, because it's my standards, it's my expectations. It's what I'm doing to go above and beyond. And it's not like it was just a slip, And then another time, second day of the fast, of course, somebody brought in donuts to work. And I go to work early, so my brain doesn't turn on for like 3 hours. And of course, oh, hey, donuts. Man, I love these cream cheese ones. So I have a couple. I'm just kind of doing my thing at work. And I was like, yeah, I'm fasting, but why aren't I more hungry? It's the second day. Oh, I broke the fast on accident. So what? You screw up. You just, that doesn't mean I'm counting that day two, like starting from zero again. I don't want to do that to myself. Plus, dude, I remember how wrong those donuts did me the rest of the day. I felt like crap. It didn't take much to remember after that. It's like, oh yeah, I don't want to eat anything right now. But putting other people first, yeah, it's easy to do it when it doesn't seem like it's costing us something, or when we see that we can get some kudos out of it. But when there's somebody that's just angry at you, that's uh, that's when the rubber meets the road. You can say, you're like, dude, I don't even owe this person an apology, man. They can shove it. I'm just gonna, I'm done with them. And then words slip out. It's up to us to make a push to rise above that kind of thing, to be able to stand up to that kind of thing in the heat of the moment, and not even have to second guess ourselves, not even really have to consult God about it so much, because it's just that love and that humility is just so resident and prevalent in us, in our complete lifestyle. That's where God's trying to bring us. And just one more reason there's going to be a separation, huh? Man, that was I've been catching up on some of Tim Stemple's messages. Dude, you gotta listen to them. There's some prophecy talking about how obviously I got to read it some more, but talking about how some of the separation is going to be God's bringing people further and further into this inner circle, and then there's going to be people with their own agendas, with their own ideas, with their own plans. They're like, hey, yeah, I want to tag along to that inner circle too, and then their agenda and their ideas are exactly what's going to hold them back. You know, oh, Jesus said not to disfigure your face or whatever when you're fasting, and I never wanted to make a big deal of it, but you ever notice it seems like whenever you decide to go a few days without food is like when all this food just kind of shows up. Like there was one, I think it was a year and a half, 2 years ago. I was going on a fast, and then some people invited us over for a barbecue, and dude, they know how to grill. They know what's up with the grill. And so, like, no, you can't do it right now. It's, if you want to do it like later on in the summertime, that's cool. And they just kept pressing and pressing. And finally, I was just like, look, dude, I'm fasting right now. I ain't going to eat anything. Even if you try and knock me out and open my mouth and shove it down my throat. And they're like, oh, well, that's not healthy. It's like, that's just one more reason not to tell people. Never mind that those people got like 50 pounds on me. At least 50 pounds. Trying to tell me what's healthy. All right. Yeah. Separation, man. We can't be on the other side of that. I've been in and out of Ezekiel for the first time I remember God really pointing it out was like, I don't know, 2007. And the concept of the Watchman had always kind of intrigued me before, but I never really threw myself into the book. So, like all those years ago, God told me to read it over and over and over. I think I read it like 3 times. It's almost 50 chapters, so it's not one of those you just stay in forever. And then I think it was last year, God told me to start reading it again. So I got up through the first 8 chapters, I think, and God was like, hey, start in chapter 1 again. I said, well, I want to see where this goes, because even though I read it before, it's just whatever. It's like reading a wall. And so chapter 9, I think I made it through like chapter 25, and it was like reading a blank piece of paper. Nothing penetrated. So then I learned my lesson. It turns out God was right. Read the first 8 chapters, I think, just probably 10 or 12 times. And then just this last, I don't know, month or so, God told me to read Ezekiel again. So I got up to chapter 7, and I was kind of like, well, where am I going to stop at now? Where's the bookmark going to stop this time? Got to chapter 8. Didn't hear anything from God. Starting at chapter 9. It's like the whole thing just exploded with life. And I think I got to about 24, 25, 26, somewhere around there. And God was like, all right, start over again. So, of course, I read one more chapter, and it was like reading a brick wall again. Still didn't learn my lesson. And so I'm reading these new parts through again. And, man, I don't know how I missed it before. There's just so much in there. And there was one, Ezekiel was just kind of, I'm still getting the pictures, the movie of the book. But it's like there was one chapter, Ezekiel was just chilling in his house, and then the elders of the church came up, and they were just standing in front of him. Ezekiel's just standing there, and God's like, oh, hey, tell him this. Well, he says to Ezekiel first, like, hey, these church people, man, if you could see how many idols they've set up in their hearts, do that, and then they come to you for guidance, man, should you even say anything to them? I tell you what, you don't really have to say anything to them except, hey, those idols you put in your heart, man, God's going to deal with you one-on-one concerning all of those. He's going to meet you where you're at and make it very clear where you're at and why you're not listening to him. And let's see, there's a lot of likenesses. Man, you see many idols, metaphorically, idols in the church. Like all these people that give themselves a title and then just got the silver tongue, a snake oil salesman. There's people God's got a lot to say about them. But, well, yeah. There's a judgment based on the idols we have in our hearts. Personally, for me, I would much rather deal with the ones God makes me aware of. So at least when that time comes, I'm like, God, ignorance, man, I was trying, and God's not much for ignorance, so he's gonna keep. It'll be like a ticker tape on the bottom of the TV. It's like, well, you got this issue, and they keep reading. It's like, my God, is this tape ever going to end? But what are we doing with the truth we know? That's what we're going to be accountable for. Man, there's been God hadn't been saying the easiest stuff to me lately, so I just kind of took a step back, man, pushed away for a little while. Yeah. And then it's finally started wearing me out. Started running out of my own gas because I sure wasn't plugged into God there for a little while. I was just kind of coasting. Hopefully y'all couldn't tell. And finally I was like, God, where's all this stuff meet, man? I would love to know. Can I just have the answers, please? Especially lately, man. something. I just feel like I've been choking on something mentally. Like there's a roadblock. There's like my mind's constipated, kinda. So I was asking God about this fast, and it has something to do with it. Whenever I may get around to it. But well, first off, man, your fast, your rules. Somebody else tells you how to be doing it, you can very politely remind them. Well, that's. I was going to say politely remind them to shove it, but that's probably not the nicest way to say it. Just remind them that there's a reason you don't respect them, a reason you don't listen to them. However you want to say it, whatever. You can even be nice about it. But if somebody's telling you how to run your life, they're clearly not busy enough running their own. But we gotta try and remind ourselves who's in charge. I think look this up. I'm assuming it's in Proverbs, where Solomon saw a terrible sight. He saw the servants on horseback and princes riding. And well, fasting is one thing that helps change that. Wait, yeah, wait. Servants on horseback and princes walking. I don't know if I said that right the first time. Anyway, hopefully y'all know where I'm coming from with that. But fasting is it's a good way to remind yourself of who is who, especially when it comes to God. I don't know if you've heard of David Hogan. He's got well, I haven't kept up with him for years. Not that he and I were really chummy, but I mean, there's people you respect. You kind of keep tabs on them. He had a pretty solid ministry in Mexico for a long time, and him and his crew, man, they just fast every other day, 6 months out of the year. I tried that for a little while, a couple times a month, man. I'd miss a barbecue or something. And then it seemed like I was the only one that was doing it, and I was the only one missing out. So, well, hey, this kind of sucks. I like barbecues. So that kind of fell to the wayside. That's something I've been thinking about picking up again. But, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what seems good when when decision time comes. Or when we hit a fork in the road about, well, you can go without food for a little while, or you can just keep ignoring God and empowering your soul, your pride, and then wonder why you can't hear God. Yeah. So, I think I have about played out. Man, well, if you think about it, if it seems good to you, Dave's got a series on fasting. I don't know if it's 6 or 8 or 10 parts, but believe it or not, he does a pretty good job on breaking the whole thing down. All the processes, spiritual, the mental, the physical side of it, pretty good. And if you haven't been keeping up with Tim Stemple's messages for the first part of 2014, dude, jump on that. And I know Pam Bernard on Ictus post the resources. Get a hold of them. They're a good thing to have right now, a study. I say that, and it's been like a week since I've read them. Anyway, love you guys, and talk to you again in a couple weeks. Peace.